Good morning, my students. Today I am going to read line by line of the short story The Ice Habit by Ruskin Bond. The ice habit. The last day we discussed and explained the meaning, the inner meaning, the pathos, the irony of the story. And today I shall read the text and follow the text, keeping a book in your hand that will help you profusely. Now I am going to read the text. I had the train compartment to myself to Rohana. Then a girl got in. The couple who saw her off were probably her parents. They seemed very anxious about her comfort, and the woman gave the girl detailed instructions as to where to keep her things, when not to lean out of the windows, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. The story begins with a very beautiful language, the style of the language. Look at it. I had the train compartment to myself to Rohana. That means the word myself is very much significant here. The author or the narrator, the first person, the narrator was alone in the compartment, and he was alone up to Rohana. So nobody was there in the compartment. He was alone. That's why the line is here. I had the train compartment to myself up to Rohana. Try to notice the word myself. Then a girl got in. So at Rohana station, a girl got into the compartment where the author was there, sitting alone. The couple who saw her off were probably her parents. So the author was not sure that the couple, that a man and a woman, probably they were her parents. They seemed very anxious about her comfort. Both of them, the parents, were very much anxious. উদ্বিগ্ন, anxious কথার অর্থ এখানে উদ্বিগ্ন, worried about her comfort. And the woman gave the girl detailed instructions as to where to keep her things, when not to lean out of the windows, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. As a guardian of the girl, the woman gave her detailed instructions how to behave with a unknown person in the train, and not to lean out of the window. So these are all the instructions, and here from a short question may come. Underline those lines from they seemed very anxious up to strangers. The second stanza, they called their goodbyes and the train pulled out of the station. As I was totally blind at the time, my eyes sensitive only to light and darkness, I was unable to tell what the girl looked like, but I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels. They called their goodbyes. So when the train pulled out of the station, when the wheel started moving, the couple, they bade goodbye to the girl. As I was totally blind at the time, the narrator was totally blind. It has a little hint that at a time of her life, it may be that the narrator was not blind. So at that time, he was blind when he was traveling along with the girl. My eyes are sensitive only to light and darkness. His eyes were responsive. Here, sensitive means responsive only to light and darkness. He could distinguish the light and darkness and nothing more. He could not see at that time. I was unable to tell what the girl looked like, as the narrator was blind, totally blind at that time when he was traveling with the girl. He could not tell the readers that how the girl looked like. But I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels. So there was a sound. As a blind a man, the four other senses were alive, except the vision of his eyes. So by the help of his four visions, four senses, not visions, four senses, he could realize, he could feel that the girl was wearing slippers that made a sound. From the sound of the slippers, he could gaze. He could gaze that the girl wore slippers. It would take me some time to discover something about her looks, and perhaps I never would. But I liked the sound of her voice and even the sound of her slippers. It would take me some time to discover something about her looks. As the narrator was blind, he wanted to take some time to discover that how the girl looked like. So out of her four senses, he could gaze that how he looked like, and perhaps I never would. So there is a suspicion from the voice of the narrator that he would never discover that how the girl looked like. But I like the sound of her voice and even the sound of her slippers. Very much a romantic line this is. The narrator, he felt attracted by the voice of the girl and the sound of her slippers. Are you going all the way to there? I asked. Then the conversation, the encounter of the two blind people started. Are you going all the way to there? I asked. The narrator asked her about her destination. I must have been sitting in a dark corner because my voice startled her. She gave a little exclamation and said, I did not know anyone else was here. I must have been sitting in a dark corner. As the girl was also a blind one, she could not notice that there was a man inside the compartment. So her voice startled, and she replied with an exclamation that she did not know that someone was sitting there. Well, it often happens that people with good eyesight fail to see what is in front of them. They have too much to take in, I suppose. Whereas people who cannot see or see very little have to take in only the essentials, whatever registers most tellingly on their remaining senses. Well, it often happens that people with good eyesight fail to see what is right in front of them. So we have very good eyesight and we have to take in too much out of our visions, and they have too much to take in, I suppose. Whereas people who cannot see or see very little have to take in only the essentials. On the other hand, the blind people or who can see very little, they exclude unessential things. They always register what is essential for them. So these lines are very much important, and from here questions may come. Whatever registers most tellingly on their remaining senses, so not out of their vision. Out of their four senses, they registered what is most or what are most important to them to capture in. So as a people who have got the good eyesight, we fail to register out of our vision that what is most important to us, because we have to take in too much. And the blind people, out of their four senses, they can register, they can capture what are most important for them. On to the next page. I do not see you either, I said, but I heard you come in. The narrator also could not see that the girl was coming in. He could only hear her voice, hear the sound of her slippers. I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind, provided I keep my seat. I thought, if should not be too difficult. I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind. The narrator was not sure, but he was doing as much as he could to conceal, to hide his blindness from the girl. So therefore, to ensure this, so that his blindness may not come out, may not disclose, he took his seat and thought that it would not be too difficult to prevent his blindness. So the game started. The blind started to act like a sighted person, like a person who have got a good eyesight, good vision. The girl said, I am getting off at Saharanpur. My aunt is meeting me there. She would get off at Saharanpur station, where her aunt would receive her. Then I had better not get too familiar, I replied. Aunts are usually formidable creatures. This is a humorous line, a funny line. The narrator told the girl that the aunts are usually formidable creatures. Formidable here means those who are dangerous, those who act like a very strict guardian. Here is the implication. This is the implication of the line. The ants are very much strict guardians. So, if her aunts would be waiting there at Saharanpur, so better not to start to get too familiar with the girl. Where are you going? She asked. The conversation started with the question from the girl that where the narrator was going, as she was going to Saharanpur, and the next counter question was that where the narrator was going. The reply from the narrator was to Dehra and then to Mussoorie. At first he would go to Dehra and from there he would go to Mussoorie. Oh, how lucky you are. I wish I were going to Mussoorie. I love the hills, especially in October. The girl replied that the narrator was very much lucky because of the place where he was going. Mussoorie is a very beautiful place, a hillside. And she loved the hills. So the girl who was blind, at the end of the story it will be disclosed. But from now, for better understanding for you, I am disclosing you that the girl was also blind. She started acting like a good eyesighted person. The Mussoorie, especially in October, is very much beautiful. Yes, this is the best time, I said, calling on my memories. So, this is the best time. I replied, that means the narrator replied, calling upon his memories. So, once as he was not a blind person, perhaps he visited Mussoorie, and so from his memory, he was giving the description of Mussoorie. The hills are covered with wild dahlias. The sun is delicious, and at night you can sit in front of a log fire and drink a little brandy. Most of the tourists have gone, and the roads are quiet and almost deserted. Yes, October is the best time. The hills are covered with wild dahlias. Here is the description, a little description of Mussoorie. The hills are covered with wild dahlias. Dahlia is a flower, you know. The sun is delicious. Delicious means moderately hot, not too hot or not too cold. It is moderately hot. That is the description of delicious. And at night you can sit in front of a log fire. And at night you can sit in front of a fire lit by the logs and drink a little brandy. Brandy is a wine, a kind of wine, not too, what to call a brandy. Brandy is not too strong wine, too strong liquor. Most of the tourists have gone. So in October, most of the October is the month. After that, cold winter and cold wind begin to come at Mussoorie, and so therefore most of the tourists leave the place, and the roads are quiet, as there is a little tourists at that time in October. The roads are quiet and almost deserted. Yes, October is the best time. So, moving around in Mussoorie or to watch the wild beauties. The wild beauties, it is not too much winter there or too much cold there at October. So, it would be very much beautiful to look at the hillside filled with dahlias, delicious sunlight, and at night you can sit before log fire and take a little brandy. So it is in October, this is the best time. So here from short questions may come. Underline those lines. She was silent. So hearing or listening my description of Mussoorie, she was silent. I wondered if my words had touched her or whether she thought me a romantic fool. Then I made a mistake. What is it like outside? I asked. So as there was no reply after the description of Mussoorie, the narrator got little surprised. So in order to continue his conversation in a hurry, he asked a very foul question that would disclose his blindness. What is it like outside? So if he could see then, or if he could, he was acting like an eyesighted people, how he could then ask such a silly or foul question? She seemed to find nothing strange in the question, but luckily the girl found nothing strange in this question. Sorry. Had she noticed already that I could not see? But her next question removed my doubt. This very much important line. Underline these sentences. Had she noticed already that I could not see? A little apprehension from the narrator that this question, this foul question, may have disclosed his blindness. So she was little worried. But her next question removed his doubt. What was the next question from the girl? Why don't you look out of the window? She asked. I moved easily along the path and felt for the window ledge. So, from his sitting place, the narrator moved along the window. The window was open and I faced it. Trying to pose as he could see. Making a pretense means bhan, acting, of studying the landscape. I heard the panting of the engine, the moving sound of the engine, the rumble of the wheels. And in my mind's eye. So these sounds and the landscape outside he could only see, not by his two eyes, by his mind's eye. From his perception, I could see telegraph posts flashing by. As the train was moving, the light posts that were still standing at a certain distance alongside the train line, and those who were sitting, and you can also see while you travel in a train, while you sit in a train, that the posts were passing by. There is a signs also. I could see telegraph posts flashing by. Have you noticed, I ventured, that the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still? So the signs, very much intelligent the narrator is, in order to trying to conceal, trying to hide his blindness, she told the girl that if he could perceive, he could see that the trees were moving or passing by while they were standing still or sitting still. That always happens, she said. Do you see any animals? The girl easily replied that this is a science, this happens so. And next question was that if the narrator could see any animal outside the window. So here is the first page of the story, and the next day I could finish reading the story, and after that I will give you some questions that will help you to solve, and I will discuss every questions thereafter. So here is goodbye. Try to read the text repeatedly and take notes of the unknown words, and if you face any problem, you can inbox me or text me some message in my WhatsApp number you have already got. So goodbye, be safe and live freely. Okay, bye bye.